Chapter 1. My Previous Life on My Planet. Let me introduce myself. Who am I? I was a resident of a system until recently. This planet, called Alfuri, was my hometown, and I played a very big role there. But the most important point is that I came up with this thought at some point. I should quit this shitty job. Do you know how I'm treated while I live here? This work is treated as a kind of community service, so even if I work myself to death, I won't get paid. However, I go to work 640 days a year without a holiday, and because I don't need sleep due to technological system developments, I work overtime like I'm breathing. I decided to quit my job. However, several problems came up ahead of my resignation. First of all, this is not a job you can quit at will. High-ranking people put restrictions on that they couldn't run away from their work. The moment you try teleportation magic, you get an electric shock in your brain. Even if you succeeded in leaving the workplace, they're in a situation where there is no place to hide because all parts of the planet are already in the hands of the rulers. So, I considered resigning again and again, and in this process, I carefully observed that my hometown's magic technology couldn't deal with souls yet. According to this, my restrictions, strictly speaking, belong to the coordinate of the body. Then I conclude after thinking, then can my soul escape freely? Then I started developing magic little by little. Soul manipulation. I finally completed this one-of-a-kind magic. With the determination to quit my job, I made a plan to settle my soul on a distant planet so that they couldn't chase after me. All right, it's done. As expected, I am a genius. As soon as the magic was completed, I started it without hesitation. I am finally leaving this damn place. I shouted with joy, spreading my tentacles wide. You idiots! Roll this ruined planet without me! Wahaha! When I came to my senses, I lifted a pair of reflective thin skins. It was an eyelid. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was a yellowish ceiling. Then, the next thing I saw was the wallpaper with flower patterns. I looked around, but I didn't see any other creatures besides me. Only walls, 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 in a very small room. What is this gross thing? When I tried to control my body, something came out from the side. It was an elongated mass of bright yellow protein, with 5 thin projections sprouting from the tip of a large cylinder. It was a finger. Anyway, I think it worked. I went through a period of adaptation while fumbling with my body. Of course, I may worry about how I will live on an alien planet alone. I'm not an ordinary person. I was the strongest wizard representing my hometown planet. Reincarnation is no big deal, but what if such a genius wizard gets caught? First of all, I set some conditions before I cast the spell. Reincarnated as the creature on the planet with the most powerful abilities. If I passed this condition, I would naturally be the species with the highest intelligence. It didn't matter if I possessed a single cell, as long as I could quit my job. I got up from my seat. It was time for the next setting rule to shine. Oh, hello? Hello? I started to speak Korean perfectly. It was thanks to the extraction of the memories from the person's brain. Because even after death, when the soul has left the body, the information stored in the brain and heart doesn't easily disappear. But why is this all? A problem was found during the test. If everything goes as planned, I should inherit the memories so perfectly that even if the corpse's parents come, they won't be able to tell us apart. But why? I have no idea at all what kind of person this body's owner was when he was alive. Somehow, my memories were all scattered. Which parts are missing? No matter how much magic is a study that builds up through failure, this case is a bit fatal. I stood still for now and thought about what to do. Ugh! Cough? Cough! I bent down because of the sudden pain I felt in the pit of my stomach. It was as if an organ had been ripped open and soaked in hydrochloric acid. Damn it! Thanks to the shock of intense pain, it just showed me a piece of memory from the past in my brain. So it was a corpse from starvation. The body I reincarnated was a starved corpse. He suffered for a long time and died of hunger, so the accumulated shock is great. In my mind, I want to quickly solve all the problems with magic. However, it was difficult to cast magic now. Since it's right after reincarnation, the soul needs time to adjust to the magic of this planet. Then I leaned back down. Ugh! I couldn't even afford to think for a moment. The pain created by the body that fell into starvation was beyond imagination. No, this is a little... I can't concentrate on anything in this situation. Now, the most important thing was to turn off the warning sound in the stomach. It hurts so much. I'm going to go through it again at this rate. I made a decision and immediately opened the door here. After that, I gritted my teeth and looked for a way to get out of the building. I will look for wild food as soon as I go outside. All I have to do is put anything into my stomach. Anyway, why is this body so hard to move? I've definitely absorbed the way of walking, but my legs feel extremely heavy. But fortunately, it was not long before I went outside. I couldn't hide how surprised I was when I saw the first scenery of this planet. Light? Since most of the surface was water, the starlight didn't reach well, making the scenery of my hometown dark and blue. And the warm, dry environment here is the exact opposite of that. The dazzling appearance I saw for the first time briefly overwhelmed me. But there is no time for sentimentality. Not at a time like this. The extreme hunger poked my stomach, and now I have no choice but to find wild animals and anything I could put in my mouth. Ugh! But after a few minutes, I was faced with a hopeless situation. There's nothing to eat. Nowhere. What the hell? Shockingly, this place was paved in gray everywhere. No animals can be seen on the flat road, and it is difficult to find even traces of insects or plants. What kind of planet is here? This is why the owner starved to death. Reduced green space due to rapid urbanization. Such a sentence suddenly came to mind, but there was no time to interpret it. I lost my strength and crawled on the ground. As I lowered my posture, I finally found an insect near the tire, but it's too small. But will this really help? I think it will take more energy to digest. It was a moment when I was contemplating whether or not to eat the insects I found. In the distance, something appeared in a crooked alley. It's the same race. I recognized at once that he was a resident of the Earth. The person who appeared was short enough to barely reach the side mirror of a parked car. It looks like a child. Children. Words that refer to the other person naturally come to mind, but that's also for a while. I paused and looked at the object the child was holding. He held a soft plastic bag in his hand, and then he squeezed the orange solid inside the bag to dissolve it and eat it. Ugh. What is that? When I thought it was quite delicious, I couldn't take my eyes off it. Did he notice my gaze? The child, who was passing by, kept looking sideways a few times, and then all of a sudden he sped up. Did he consider me a strange person? He passed the street corner quickly. Should I go and steal it now? That was around the time I thought about not having an animal. I found a new while I was secretly following behind the child. Thankfully, there were tall trees and small flowers along this winding road. Plant! But somehow those plants don't seem to be edible. Unfortunately, there is no choice as long as the memory is incomplete. I thought this was better than stealing other people's food, and eventually took a step forward to collect unknown plants. At that moment, boom! There was a strange roar. It was the sound from the alley where the child went back. I turned my head. Then I directly checked the place where the roar was heard. Paying attention to danger signals is a common feature of animals. Kyak! As I entered the alley in question, the strange sound rang once again. Kyak! If I look closely, it's not a person. It's a huge red wing, with black, shiny eyes, and something with a long, pointed yellow beak. It's a bird? Kyak! So, to sum it up, today I was reincarnated on a planet called Earth where I could encounter a monster bird the size of a house on the street. Damn it. Wait, maybe this was actually better. I calmly reassessed my situation. To be continued.